Ultimately, the only way that I can be myself is to become identified with Him, in whom is hidden the reason and fulfillment of my existence. Therefore, there is only one problem on which all my existence, my peace and my happiness depend: to discover myself in discovering God. If I find God, I will find myself, and if I find my true self, I will find God. But although this looks simple, it is in reality immensely difficult. In fact, if I am left to myself, it will be utterly impossible. No man can ever do it alone, nor can all the men and all the created things in the universe help him in this work. The only one who can teach me to find God is God Himself, Himself alone. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to Ramakrishna Monastery. And our topic today is quite interesting: toxic spirituality. Yes, in a spiritual life, there can be dangers and different levels of toxicity. Are you familiar with this term? Yeah, I bet you are. I wanted to start with a quote by a very, very dear source of inspiration in my life. His name is Thomas Merton. That is from New Seeds of Contemplation. Because we need to contemplate upon what a spiritual life is all about. And then the meaning of toxicity. Let us try to analyze the different dimensions of this toxicity and how we could fall victims of it in our spiritual journey. We will be talking about toxicity at different levels. Throughout this talk, it's an hour. Hope to finish on time. First is the toxic me. The inside enemy, I call it. Where all the toxicity is coming from me. My wrong approach and understanding of what I'm looking for in spiritual life. The wrong interpretation of the message coming from teachers and scriptures. The misuse of the so-called spiritual life as a spiritual bypassing. Me as a spiritual narcissist. Oof. The second part of this talk will be dedicated to the toxic environment. That is the outside enemy. The toxic environment. Where all the toxicity is coming from others, including family, community, church, group, and why not, social media. Or where the toxicity is coming from a narcissist person, and we are simply victims or prisoners. All this in a context of a spiritual life. But before we go into these so-called enemies, let's clarify what we mean by spirituality or spiritual life and toxicity. Let's talk about spirituality and why it's a good idea to have one. It's about the understanding of what life is all about and its purpose beyond material existence. The need to connect with something greater than us as a spirit, that is meaningful to us. A spiritual life refers to a way of living that focuses on cultivating a deeper connection to oneself, others, and a higher power or transcendent reality. We call that God. Seeking a deeper understanding of life, meaning, and purpose beyond material existence. Feeling connected to a higher power, whether through a specific religion or a more universal concept. You following? How does that search manifest in this material existence? What is meaningful to us and shape us as who we are. What is meaningful to us and shape us as who we are. This is what triggers in all of us to cultivate this, to look for a deeper understanding, to connect with something greater than ourselves. It could be a bit abstract, but manifest in the form of values. These values shape us to the point that we could sacrifice our life if these values are jeopardized. It's so abstract, the concept of spirituality. Yes, we've been introduced to the concept of the soul, the spirit, but what is it in reality? Is it tangible? It's very abstract. But all of us have an idea about what is spiritual and our spirit. And it's deeply centered in our core values that shape us as people, human beings. It's who we are as people, the reflection of our spirit. These values are everything that is meaningful to us. Love, kindness, care for each other, all ethical principles, our connections, our purpose, compassion, being genuine and authentic. In reality, it is nothing but a very deep, meaningful set of values that will shape the very core of our lives. That's basically all we have, all we can connect to. In our lives, when we think about the spirit, it's about manifest through these values. Love, compassion, kindness. Appreciation and respect for each other, the value of life and how we honor it. As simple as that. No Atman, no Brahman, just values. What we deeply believe in. This is what matters when it comes to our identity, and it's very private to us. Without it, we feel empty. We don't know who we are anymore. We don't know who we are anymore. These values need to be very clear with us. When you are confronted to this question, you should think about it. What do I believe in? What really shapes me as a human being? This is what really triggers our individual purpose in life and analyze what's truly important and to analyze what's truly important in our lives. What is that pushes you into a spiritual life? Your sets of values. I want to be a better human being. I want to find peace. The problem is when you just simply say that just for myself. And then you learn that it's not just about you, but about all of us. True spirituality will make us more human and real and more engaged. True spirituality will make you, or all of us, a better human being as a whole. That's what it is. A better human being. All these philosophies, spiritual practices, it's all about becoming a better human being. It's a way of living, and that will help us become fully human. In being human, we have the capacity to know better and express love more freely. Becoming deeply human is letting God express through all of us. As Thomas Merton put it, if I find my true self, I will find God. A healthy spiritual path supports human development. It's inevitable. It's about transformation. It's about manifestation. A healthy spiritual path is when humans are fully alive and free. Let's talk about what we understand by toxic. That is clear, right? What is spirituality? It's about you. It's about who you truly are. And the willingness to become better and better so that you can find God within you and let God express himself through you as the real you, without limitations, without any labels. Let's talk about what we understand by toxic. It's simple. What is poisonous? Very harmful and unpleasant in a pervasive and insidious way. Can our spiritual life be toxic? Yep, you bet. Toxic spirituality is therefore that which poisons and threats our most inner self and strikes directly on our values and expresses through our personalities. We are miscarriage. We lost track of our real values. We look for validation and attention. This could be very harmful to ourselves and to others. Let's talk about the enemy inside, or the inside enemy, the toxic me. First is my wrong approach and understanding of what I am looking for in a spiritual life. Is it clear to you what you are truly looking for in your spiritual life? Why are you here? Why do you go to church? If it's a wrong approach, if at all it's a wrong approach, it's because it's not clear to you. We don't really know what we are looking for, but we can infer. that it must be something that fulfills all of us. We don't really know what we are looking for, but we can infer, intuitively sense that it's something that it should and it must fulfill us. Unfortunately, as we all know, we look for fulfillment in the wrong place. We want to forget ourselves, sedate ourselves. We don't have a clear guidance of where to find that fulfillment. We resort to all sorts of addictions to numb our inner struggle. We cling to external things in our lives as sources of fulfillment, and the result is more anxiety, misery, and the sense of being lost. The sense of being lost without a specific purpose, except banal goals that will make us live in the fear of losing it. Mundane goals. The second aspect of this inner enemy, or the toxic me, is the wrong interpretation of the message coming from the teachers and scriptures, which I consider the most important one. Yeah, it may not be clear to you what you are looking for. But once we are in the path, the problem is whether you find the right place and the right interpretation of that message. These are common misconceptions and pitfalls that are considered a subtle poison. What's important, or what we need to put emphasis, is in the right source of knowledge. In Sanskrit, we call that pramana, the right source of knowledge. True spirituality is grounded in the correct understanding of the scriptures, facilitated by world teachers through personal experience. And that's something that we trust, just as you trust your parents or somebody who is guiding you. You decide to trust that source of knowledge. A key source of toxicity lies in the selective or distorted interpretation of scriptural texts. We need to highlight the importance of understanding the context when it comes to texts, the intended meaning, and the overall framework of what we call Veda Anta, the end of the Vedas, the Upanishads, self-knowledge. An example is misinterpreting the concept of surrender to justify passivity and inaction, instead of understanding it as surrendering one's ego and sources of attachment to the results of actions. Swami Vivekananda stressed the importance of applying spiritual principles to daily life. He believed that true spirituality should manifest in service to humanity, particularly to those who are in need. This contrasts sharply with toxic spirituality, which often prioritizes self-centered pursuits. This contrast with toxic spirituality, which often prioritizes self-centered pursuits. He wanted people to be strong and to be active in society. A toxic form of spirituality can cause people to become weak and inactive. Second, the necessity of learning from a legitimate tradition of competent teachers who have a deeper understanding of the scriptures and a genuine commitment to guiding students towards the goal of life. Excuse me, I've been struggling with this. The necessity of learning from a legitimate tradition of competent teachers who have had a deeper understanding of the scriptures and a genuine commitment to guiding students towards the goal of life. Without such guidance, individuals are prone to misinterpretations and may be led astray by charismatic and unqualified figures. Example, following a guru who promotes blind faith, emotional manipulation, or financial exploitation. Number 3, while personal experience is important, it must be validated by the scriptures and the teachings of world teachers. This danger expresses in the form of emotional highs, fleeting insights, or subjective interpretations for genuine spiritual realization. This danger expresses in the form of emotional highs, fleeting insights, or subjective interpretations for genuine spiritual realizations. Example, confusing emotional experiences during meditation with enlightenment, leading to a spiritual arrogance and self-deception. Number 5, toxic spirituality often prioritizes mystical experiences and emotional highs over the intellectual understanding of the scriptures. The importance of what we call knowledge as the primary means to master ourselves. That knowledge will dawn in all of us when we work with our minds, when we make that commitment. Once our minds are tamed, disciplined by committing to spiritual practices and spiritual values, this knowledge will dawn. I get it now. Yes, the Lord is in everything. I can see it. I can feel it. I can express love. True spiritual progress is achieved through the removal of wrong conceptions about ourselves and others, not through the accumulation of mystical experiences. An example, seeking extraordinary experiences like visions or psychic powers rather than focusing on self-inquiry and the understanding of the nature of reality as it is. Number 6, the importance of discernment. We call that in Sanskrit viveka. Sri Ramakrishna stressed the importance of discernment, the ability to distinguish between the permanent, the unchanging, and the impermanent, that which is subject to change. This is essential for navigating the complexities of the spiritual path and avoiding false gurus or misleading practices. He taught that true devotion involves both love and discrimination, preventing blind faith that can lead to exploitation and delusion. Example, he used the parable of the elephant and the blind man to show how people without discernment, only see a small part of the truth. You remember that story? The teacher who is in the Gurukula teaching all these students, And he's talking about that God is in everything. And this student is like, yes, God is in everything, God is in everything. God is everywhere. God is everywhere. And he goes to the streets and he sees a huge elephant coming towards him. And suddenly he remembers, God is in everything, God is everywhere. And what happens? The mahout, the driver of the elephant, is telling him, move, move. The man stood there. No, God is in everything. What happens? He gets run over by the elephant. So when all his brothers come to him and wake him up, why didn't you move? Well, I just remember what our teacher told us. God is in everything. And then they said, yes, but remember, you should have seen also God in the mahout, the driver, who was telling you to move. Vivekananda was a fierce critic of weakness, fear and superstition, which he saw as major obstacles to spiritual progress. He advocated for a strong, rational, and fearless approach to spirituality based on reason and direct experience. He saw that superstition could be used to manipulate people, and that true spirituality is about freedom. Freedom. Always remember, the message from your spiritual guide should be always freedom, never bondage. Swami Vivekananda encouraged people to develop their inner strength and to rely on their own capacity for spiritual realization with deep commitment. I can do this. It's not going to be easy. But with God's grace, anything gets easier, indeed. Toxic spirituality can cause people to become overly reliant on external forces or individuals. Watch out. Number 6, 7. I don't know why I started numbering this. A significant danger is the development of a spiritual ego. We all know that. A significant danger is the development of a spiritual ego, where individuals become attached to their perceived spiritual progress or status. Is it clear? It is of great significance to highlight the importance of humility and self-reflection in maintaining a balance in a spiritual life. The example, believing oneself to be more spiritually advanced than others, leading to judgmental attitudes and a sense of superiority. Number 9, the value of sincerity and purity of heart. For Sri Ramakrishna, sincerity and purity of heart were paramount. He emphasized that true spiritual progress depends on genuine longing for God, not on external rituals or displays. He recognized that hidden motives, such as the desire for power or recognition, can corrupt spiritual practice. He valued inner purity over outward show. Number 10. Also, we need to emphasize the importance of ethical conduct as the foundation for a spiritual practice. Ethical conduct. What is this? Dharma. Toxic spirituality, however, often disregards ethical principles, ethical conduct, or dharma, justifying harmful actions in the name of spiritual goals. Example, exploiting others financially or emotionally while claiming to be acting in the name of a spiritual cause. Until now, we work on 3 spiritual enemies that I've been quoting, or I decided to work on. The wrong approach and understanding to what I'm looking for in a spiritual life, the wrong or misinterpretation of the message of the scriptures, and spiritual teachers' teachings. And now I'd like to talk about the misuse of the so-called spiritual life as a spiritual bypassing. Spiritual bypassing is a term that was developed by someone named John Wellwood. He was a therapist, or he's, I think, a therapist. And he talked about this concept, spiritual bypassing, as a defensive maneuver. This involves using spiritual concepts to avoid dealing with difficult emotions or personal and real psychological issues. We all have issues, you guys. I don't know if you know that. Some of those issues are, more difficult than others based on our past experiences, childhood trauma. That's okay. But spiritual bypassing involves using spiritual concepts to avoid dealing with these issues or difficult emotions. An example of personal or psychological problem is finding that I'm sad for no reason. That is psychological. Psychologically, something must be wrong, and you should know, or at least try to find help or understand why. Instead of addressing trauma or pain, individuals may be encouraged to pray it away. This is the bypassing. Pray it away. Or think positive, leading to emotional repression and stagnant growth. When you have these issues, just pray. It's going to be fine. Instead of taking charge of your problems, find somebody who can help you, find a solution. Yes, prayer definitely helps when you already are in the path of working with yourself. Prayer gives you strength that is coming from within. These can also be used to justify inaction in the face of injustice, claiming that suffering is God's will. Terrible. Spiritual bypassers are people who are self-righteous about their entitlement and often bring toxic positivity. But they are not dealing with the actual mess that is their psyche, in their psyche. Being self-aware of how they are affecting other people and using the superficial spiritual posturing as a way of actually denying core emotional issues and psychological work. The dangers of escapism. Escapism. We have to be aware of this form of spirituality that seeks to escape from the realities of the world and the complexities of human experiences. True spirituality involves engaging with the world with compassion and commitment to our spiritual life and social contribution. Swami Dhyanayogananda made it very clear, a very clear distinction between true renunciation and what we call escapism. He advocated for a renunciation by understanding that it's not through the senses that we will find complete satisfaction, giving up selfish motives and things of the senses we cling to, while remaining actively engaged, remaining actively engaged in serving the world. True renunciation, again, is the understanding that I shouldn't cling to sense objects with the hope that I will find fulfillment, because they have a beginning and they have an end. It will not last long. We'll become addicted to them. More and more. He advocated that for a renunciation by the true understanding that it's not through the senses that we will find complete satisfaction. He did not believe in running away from worldly problems. This counters the toxic spiritual practice of spiritual bypassing, where difficult emotions are ignored. True spiritual work involves acknowledging our psychological and emotional problems. And at last, when it comes to this inner enemy, let's talk about me, the I, as a spiritual narcissist. Recognizing the fact that I am a toxic person, sometimes we don't see it. We don't want to see it. We think we are totally fit, and we claim to be gurus, and we can guide others without even being asked. Sometimes that's the worst part. People giving advice to everybody. Oh, you should do this, you should do that. As if they had mastered already everything they are talking about. Toxic person traits, inconsistency. Part of being human is having ups and downs, good as well as bad times. But a toxic person is almost never consistent. His behavior is erratic. You never know what they are going to do next. Such inconsistency can make it very hard to be in a relationship with such toxic person. They always need attention. Have you noticed that the person always needs something from you? That particular person? Whether it's constant phone calls, text me all the time, showing up at your door, they are always seeking emotional support from you. But they are not necessarily supporting you in return. They take all that you have without giving much back. Emotional vampires. These can be associated with narcissistic personality disorder. I hope we all feel comfortable here. You must be like, oh, oops, I guess that's me. That's okay. That is good, actually, if that happens. These people cannot be happy for you. Jealousy and competitiveness flow from self-centeredness and low self-esteem. If your friend or partner always needs to one-up you or put down, or put you down, that is toxic. To put you up or put you down. They love drama. Have you ever noticed how drama seems to follow some people? It's not a coincidence. Toxic people thrive in dramatic situations. They inflame emotions and create conflict. It's the opposite of the kind of behavior that builds stable and healthy relationships. They don't respect your boundaries. If you have been clear with someone time and again about your needs, and they just can't respect that, no, they are toxic. Healthy relationships are based on trust and the ability to respect boundaries. Toxic people just can't do that. They manipulate others to get what they want. Do you feel taken advantage of or manipulated? Toxic people manipulate those around them to get what they want. This can mean lying, bending the truth, exaggerating, or leaving out information to cause you to take a certain action or have certain option of them. Or have, certain opinion, particular opinion of them. They will do whatever it takes, even if it means hurting you. Toxic people don't accept responsibility. If you call out a toxic person for an insult they delivered, expect to be told that, oh, you are too sensitive. They may act outraged that you could think badly of them. How could you say that? Or blame you for their behavior. Gaslighting, where someone tries to make you doubt your perception or memories, is a common tactic of toxic people. Narcissistic abuse. We are talking about a person who needs to be the center of attention. They have a pathological need for admiration, self-centered. They are self-conceited, arrogant. They lack empathy. They don't reflect your feelings. Very difficult to have a close relationship with these people. They tend to gaslight you, using psychological methods to manipulate you. And if you ask for empathy, if you make them aware that they need empathy, they can learn to mimic empathy. Mimic. It's not real. All right, did you recognize any of these traits in your behavior? You may be the one with the toxic behavior. Toxicity is found everywhere at different degrees. Maybe a little bit. It could be part of us, and we simply never confronted that aspect of our personality. We should be open to accept it. When we find ourselves acknowledging a toxic aspect within us, what do? Detox. We detox ourselves. Change starts by becoming more self-aware. Self-reflection may help you understand why you bring toxicity to your relationships. Maybe a difficult childhood left you feeling afraid of abandonment or unworthy of love, so you try to push people away before they can hurt you. Insecurity may make you clingy or suspicious. You may have never learn healthy, effective ways to communicate your needs. Working with a therapist can help you get to the bottom of your behavior and learn better coping strategies. An important step is to apologize to the people you have behaved badly with. Take responsibility for your actions and let them know you are making efforts to change. Let's briefly, because I don't have much time, talk about the toxic environment. We talked about the inner enemy, the toxic me. At last, recognizing that I could be the toxic one. And what about the external, the toxicity in the outside world, what I'm part of? Where all the toxicity is coming from others, including family, community, church, group, or social media. Accepting that toxicity is present not just in ourselves, but also in our closest circle of people. The toxicity is brought about by you being triggered by some kind of manipulation. These people, they know you well, your weakest points, so they provoke you. On purpose. Sometimes, I don't know, it becomes a habit. They keep provoking you by pushing you to the place of anger and reaction where you simply lose yourselves. That's it. Enough. Eventually you lose your balance. That's all they wanted. You will see them happy then. It could be your sister, your brother, your partner. The relationship has turned toxic. Maybe we should try to change the dynamics in that relationship. Set limits before it's too late. It's not that you can simply stop having a relationship with this person. Maybe, as I said, your brother, your sister, or maybe it's your boss. And when you cannot change others, what can you do? You change yourself. Keep the right approach, but we have to bear in mind to keep the right approach, not to hurt others, not to hurt ourselves and hurt others. This is very, very important. You can set boundaries, set limits with love, not with the intention of I give it back to you. Don't create karma. The moment you start hurting others, you guys are making this mess. These knots that will be very difficult to remove later on in that relationship. They will have to come back and maybe have again that person as your parent or something. Seriously, I'm not kidding. I believe in that. So be careful of how you address this problem. Never hurt others. We need to stop and find a way to deal with these circumstances or people. There's a story of how a teacher deals with a very abusive disciple. This man keeps yelling and abusing him verbally. And the teacher, like Sri Ramakrishna, always with a smile, kind eyes, looking at this man, angry man, all sort of insults. He kept quiet. Looking at the person with kind eyes until the person stops talking and unloading all that anger. The teacher asks, "Do you receive guests at home?" "Yes, I do." Do you take care of them? Do you offer them coffee, maybe some sweets, some snacks? Sure, I do. What if they don't want to accept your offering? What if they don't want to eat? What do you do with the food? Well, I keep it and I eat it myself. Very good. The same goes in this case. You can eat all your insults, because I don't want them. They belong to you. You treated me rudely, but I don't accept that kind of treatment. This is how you deal with a toxic person. If you treat them the same way, you will be eating their food in a form of anger. And when you get angry, you become also mentally ill and vulnerable. If you do get angry, then you are yielding to what they want. They want to weaken you, make you ready for that gaslighting. Always give back a smile. Mentally weak individuals express their anger without any filters. Always stay motivated by the truth, spiritual values, and morality. Always keep the best version of yourself. Listen to what they have to say, though. Try to understand their point of view. Maybe they are right. And in that case, you have to correct yourself. Or maybe you have to apologize, for you didn't know any better. Trying to prove them wrong or talking back is of no use, since their mind is not in the right place. They might misunderstand you, getting all it wrong, and might try to take you to the place they feel comfortable with, the anger field. Stay silent. With love and kindness, never try to hurt by being rude, using rude words. Never give back anger. Try that. At last, where the toxicity is coming from a narcissist person, and we are simply victims or prisoners. Sometimes the toxicity can come again. Yeah, you could be a narcissist person too. But sometimes, in our family or in our close relationship, we develop some kind of habit to deal with each other. And that becomes toxic. But what if you are not the toxic or this narcissist person? What if your teacher is? You become a victim or a prisoner. What do? You confront them. Encourage them to get help. Set strict boundaries. You should manage your reactions. Prioritize yourself. Take care of your physical and emotional health. Maybe you should talk to a health professional and learn how to set boundaries. If the above strategies don't work or cause even more pain, abuse, or dishonesty, it's time, you guys, to let that person go. Sometimes there is nothing to do but stand up for yourself and move on. Now, at last, I'd like to wind it up, summarize all this with what we call healthy spirituality. Healthy spiritual paths and practices support human development and unfolding, as I said before. Healthy spirituality is not limited to any particular spiritual path. It is a way of walking the human path. Healthy spirituality is living out your human journey in a way that helps you become deeply and authentically human. Your selfish human should stay outside. Healthy spirituality is about self and others. Healthy spirituality is about trusting your inner voice and inner intuition. Healthy spirituality is ethically consistent, is humble. Healthy spirituality, unfortunately, embraces rigor and discipline. It demands rigor and discipline, commitment. Healthy spirituality apologizes when wrong. Healthy spirituality is centered in love. Thomas Merton emphasized the importance of love as the foundation of true spirituality, a love that is rooted in compassion, empathy, and a recognition of the inherent dignity of all beings. This love is the opposite to the conditional love, the manipulation that toxic spiritual leaders may use. True spirituality is not about achieving a perfect image, but about embracing our humanity and surrendering to the transformative power of divine love. And as a result, we find God within us. It is only in and through Him that we find our center in the core of our values. One of the paradoxes of the mystical life is this, Merton says, that the man cannot enter into the deepest center of himself and pass through the center into God unless he is able to pass entirely out of himself and empty himself and give himself to other people in the purity of selfless love. The more I become identified with God, the more will I be identified with all the others who are identified with Him. His love will live in all of us. His Spirit will be our own one life, the life of all of us and the life of God. And we shall love one another with the same love with which He loves us and Himself. This love is God Himself. The secret of my identity is hidden in the love and mercy of God. But whatever is in God is really identical with Him, for His infinite simplicity admits no division and no distinction. Therefore, I cannot hope to find myself anywhere except in Him. And that's our spiritual journey. Toxicity outside. Thank you.